Good morning, everyone. Brennan Decima here with Decima Wealth Consulting. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday weekend. Happy 4th of July. Hopefully you got to spend it with family and friends, enjoyed some barbecue and some fireworks. Our family had a wonderful time. We piled into a converted Sprinter van. We drove from Florida all the way up to Kentucky, and we stopped in some pretty neat places along the way. So we went to Helen, Georgia, which is northern Georgia in the mountains. It's a Bavarian village on the Chattahoochee. We then went to Smoky Mountain National Park. We spent some time in Pigeon Forge, and then we worked our way up to Kentucky. So we did some tubing in the Chattahoochee. We did some mountain coasters. We did a ropes course in Pigeon Forge. We did some canoeing in a river in Kentucky. So lots of activities for my 5-year-old son. We got our 6-month-old in a canoe down the river. Just a lot of chaos and excitement. And as we drove back, 18-hour drive from Louisville to St. Petersburg, Florida, my wife and I really took the time to just reflect on the trip and how thankful and how necessary it was to recharge and get away. And I noticed a meaningful difference in the drive home this time versus previous trips. So we're no stranger to long trips in a van. We're no stranger to prolonged vacations. I've had the privilege of doing that for a long time. But the difference is I used to work for a large corporation. I had over 1,000 clients assigned to me. So a normal Monday morning, even if I didn't take time off, I had hundreds of emails. If I took time off, the email bin was just an endless bottomless pit, right? The voicemails were overwhelming. So I used to come back from these trips with just an existential dread of looking at what my calendar was the following week. Just overload it with appointments to make up for lost time. Checking the email, checking the voicemail. So I used to give up a day of vacation before I even started work to just play catch up. So I drive back very stressed just thinking about getting home. And I don't think this is unique to me. I think a lot of people, when they're working, they're tied to their calendar, they're tied to their email. They have these meetings, they have this agenda, which allows them to, or doesn't allow them to fully unplug when they take vacations or when they get away. So I feel very thankful that I had the freedom to get away. Now, with that, I've done that in a way where I'm not constantly thinking about finances. I'm not constantly thinking about the market. So I think this is very applicable to a lot of us when we contemplate retirement or the next chapter. Is one, do we have enough? And two, how do we get away? So first thought is, as we're building to retirement, I think it's important to understand what the vision is for retirement. How do you want to spend your time? How do you create that freedom where you're not just stopping, right? But how do you build the day around your own priorities and not a corporate initiative, right? So that's step one, is what is the next chapter look like for you? Is it spending time with family? Is it traveling? Is it volunteering? Is it consulting? So what are your terms? The second is, do you have enough to retire? So a lot of financial planners, they really rely heavily on the Monte Carlo score. And the Monte Carlo score is not terrible, right? But it's not a retirement plan. It's a number. And that number is essentially saying, hey, do you have all the materials needed to build the retirement house? But it's not a blueprint of how to assemble those pieces. It's just saying, hey, do you have enough or don't you? So you can calculate if you have enough on your own. So how do we do that? Step one is, before making the transition, start to do a soft retirement. Add up everything that you spend, right? Get a feel for what that looks like. And you want to do it now so you're not tracking every receipt in retirement. So wealth is designed to be a tool, right? It's designed to allow you to have that freedom. So when I created these memories, what was really important to me was seeing my daughter, laugh and observe the nature of the Smoky Mountain, or see the animals and just get really excited. My son, as he fell into the Chattahoochee River, it's freezing cold water, he's squealing. I remember that, but I don't remember what the gas bill was. I don't remember what the cost of the campsite reservations were. I couldn't tell you what I spent on food. And the reason for that is I don't need to track every receipt in retirement, but because before I've moved into the next chapter, and I'm not retired, I'm consulting, but before I moved into this chapter of my life, I really mapped out what can we spend comfortably and what is our wiggle room. So before you retire, starting to do that for yourself allows you to have parameters, and I can help you put those parameters in place. And then calculating, what are our expenses and what income do we have coming in, right? So let's say you're someone that needs $100,000. I'm just going to use that as a simple number in retirement, and you have no other sources of income. You don't have Social Security, you don't have pension, you don't have annuities. Well, take that $100,000 and divide it by 0.04. So whatever you need to spend to live your lifestyle, if you have no other income, divide it by 0.04. So if you retire and you need $100,000 to pay the bills, you divide that by 0.04, it's $2.5 million. So if you have no other sources of income, what is your Monte Carlo confidence to say, hey, I have enough? It's $2.5 million if you need $100,000. Now, most people, when they retire, they are going to have Social Security. So let's say you and your wife, or you and your spouse, your husband, you're getting $60,000 in Social Security. Well, now you only need $40,000 in savings. So if you take $40,000 and divide it by 0.04, now you only need $1 million. So there's a very wide range on what you need, depending on what you spend. Now, I've worked with executives of all levels of wealth. I've worked with people all the way up to $100 million, right? And what's a common theme for most is whether we have 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, the question is still there. Do we have enough, right? Is this going to provide for my family, provide for my lifestyle? So part of that stress comes from the responsibility of managing a nest egg. And when we're working, we typically have 4 components to our financial lifestyle. So component 1 is a paycheck, a salary. Most of the executives I work with, myself included, I work for a large corporation. We had a salary. That's what pays the bills, the fixed expenses, the mortgage, the groceries, the utilities, things like that. The second component is a bonus. Now, I've worked with executives where either if they did well or the company did well, they get performance incentives, restricted stock, cash bonus, stock options. I got bonuses based off certain product metrics. Part of the reason I left, I want to be a fiduciary where I'm not tied to company initiatives. I want to just do what's best for the client. Number 3 is an emergency fund. So our air conditioner went out recently. We live in Florida. Can't have no AC in Florida. But whether I'm working or not, my house maintenance doesn't care, and yours won't either. So emergency fund is important. And then most people have a retirement savings, so that's the 4th, for the future, that long-term growth. Now, where does the stress arrive? The future finally arrives, and we now have that nest egg that's tasked to do all 4 of those things. So we need it to be the salary, we need it to be the bonus, we need it to be the emergency fund, and we need it to provide for hopefully 20, 30, maybe 40 years of retirement living. And that's very stressful at all levels of wealth. So how can you create that peace of mind, that freedom? So in my opinion, freedom does not come from maximum returns, right? Chasing returns means more volatility, more risk. So more uncertainty. Uncertainty tends to lead to stress. So how do we create less stress, more freedom? The first is knowing what we're spending for our salary. What is our fixed expenses? And figuring out what the gap is between what we have coming in and what goes out the door. And whatever that gap is, that should not be dependent on the market. That should be in a protected bucket. You can use annuities, you can use a bond ladder, you can use a CD ladder. We can help you plan for that. But your fixed expenses should not be tied to the market. That should be in your protection bucket, right? The second component is having some wiggle room where if the market does well, you can do a little bit more, right? You can spend on extra trips. So market's at record highs, right? So that gave me a little bit more confidence that we could take a vacation this year. Maybe take multiple vacations this year. So the better the market does, the more you can spend within reason. If the market goes down, it doesn't impact your normal ability to live life, but maybe it's not a year you go above and beyond, right? Then the third component is the emergency fund. So typically we recommend having 2 years of expenses in cash, just absolute catastrophe fund. But then any big ticket items that you know you're going to spend, we encourage you to add to that bucket, right? So, if you spend $100,000 a year, you've got $60,000 coming in income. That means there's $40,000 in expenses that need to come from savings. So 2 years of that would be $80,000. But if we know in a year we're going to buy an $80,000 car, or whatever that purchase is, that's not really an emergency fund. That's just a car reserve. So we would add the price of that car to the $80,000. We would need $160,000 in that protection bucket. And then the final component is growth. And there's nothing wrong with taking risk with the growth bucket, but I look at this as, what is that purpose? What can be at risk where it's providing for the long run, just like your 401k. We don't need to depend on it to pay the bills. We don't need to depend on it for the vacations. It's there for the future and the back end of retirement. It's there for legacy. And that allows the market to do what it does best. It's designed to grow over the long run. It's not designed to be a short-term use of funds, right? So long-term investing is what we believe in. So again, to recap, 4 components when you're working, 4 components when you're retired. If you need help creating these buckets, that's what we're here for. So, message me, leave a note in the comments. If you need help building a portfolio that gives you some peace of mind, whether you're managing or you delegate to an asset manager so you have the freedom to get away without wondering what the market's doing every minute of every day, we can help you interview asset managers to define the right strategy for your bigger picture plan and your preferences. And that way you have a plan that gives you the freedom to spend time with family, gives you the freedom to travel, gives you the freedom to do what matters most to you. So if this information is helpful, hit subscribe. If you would like some help, leave a note in the comments or visit us at www.decimawealth.com. And as always, thank you for joining. I hope everyone has a wonderful week.